All right, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's doing great today. I hope that today has just been terrific, and for the next 45 minutes, we're going to have a little bit of fun. So, welcome. My name is Amy Wortham. I'm the Director of Corporate and Custom Training for UNC Charlotte, which this webinar is brought to you by. We deliver 1- and 2-day professional development programs. We currently have about 26 certificate programs, everything from project, process management, learning and development, HR, medical coding, forensic accounting, fire and rescue, you name it, we just about have it. In addition, we also have lots of exam prep courses. We have summer camps for your children, and we also have one-on-one coaching. So got a little bit of everything within continuing ed, and we are so excited about having everybody here today. So if you've already been on a webinar with us before, you know that we've got to talk about the rules of engagement. For the next 45 minutes, we are going to be spending our time together. This webinar is actually being recorded, and you'll receive a copy of that recording in an email within 24 hours. And even though your mic and your video has been disabled, we've got the chat box open and running, and my good friend Nicole Greer is here, and is going to be helping me man the chat box. So hopefully we'll have lots of great discussion and interaction today. Again, it's going to be recorded, and so we'll send that out at the end of today. In addition, there is going to be an evaluation, a link to an online evaluation. I would really appreciate if you would take 5 minutes just to fill that out, give us your feedback, what you like, maybe some topics that you'd like to see for future webinars, and any feedback that you wanted to share with us. And then finally, we're going to also hook you up with some great resources that pertain to emotional intelligence. All right, so here's what's ahead for the next 45 minutes. Essentially, we're going to define what emotional intelligence is, and we're going to discuss its importance in the workplace. We're also going to review the 4 quadrants of emotional intelligence, which includes self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So I'm excited. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, in the chat box, you know me, if you've been on any of my other webinars, you know that I like to get started with a little bit of discussion. So in the chat box, when you hear the phrase emotional intelligence, one word or phrase would you use to share the meaning it has for you? All right, self-awareness, empathy, recognition, awareness for self and others, self-control, empathy keeps coming up, self-care, consideration, I love it. Oh, a PhD in emotions. Patience, resilience. Oh, there's that resilience again, being aware, compassion, thinking before speaking. I love that. That's one thing that sometimes I struggle with. Knowing thyself, knowing how to respond given individual situation. Maturity, absolutely. Reading others' body language and knowing yours. Oh, these comments are terrific. You guys actually don't need this class. It sounds like you're already in tune with what emotional intelligence is. And all of these things that you're putting in the chat box, they are absolutely correct. All of these things are what make up emotional intelligence. Essentially, emotional intelligence is using emotional information to guide your thinking and your behavior. To guide your thinking and behavior. And so I love this picture. It's really sort of indicative of what's in this picture of balancing your head and your heart. And sometimes that can be really hard to do. You want to say something because you got hurt with your heart, but you got to think with your head. So trying to find that balance. But here's a good way to remember what emotional intelligence is. If you can remember the acronym RUM, and no, I'm not talking about our favorite drink, but RUM, recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, and recognize, understand, and manage the emotions of others. And that's easier said than done. But if you are tuned in to yourself, you're able to do this. So RUM, recognize, understand, and manage your emotions and the emotions of others. Now, one thing that's interesting, I have had people say, well, Amy, I can't manage, or I can't, help how somebody else is being emotional. I can't control their emotions. And I'm not asking you to control their emotions. What I'm saying is be tuned into them. If you know that someone is distraught, and we're going to talk about this in just a little bit, picking up on that body language, somebody had mentioned that in the chat box, but being able to tune in to those individuals and have empathy for them. So recognize, understand, and manage. So emotional intelligence is extremely important. 90% of top performers have IQ. EQ is also responsible for about 58% of your job responsibility. What we find is that with folks that have high EQ, they are top performers because they are able to communicate well, they're able to collaborate. And what we find is that this is actually one of the top 10 skills identified by the World Economic Forum, comes in at number 6. And if you look at the other 5 above it, all of those things rely on emotional intelligence. So all of those pieces work together. The other thing is that with a Career Builder took a survey of, I think it was like 2,900 HR managers, and 59% of those individuals said that they would not hire someone with a high IQ, but with a low EQ. And what that means is you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're unable to communicate and collaborate with your colleagues, then you quickly go from being an asset to a liability for that company. A lot of organizations are like, I'd much rather have someone with high EQ, and I can train them how to do the job. So when you're looking at hiring individuals, thinking about that EQ and how it kind of ties in. So here are some of the high levels of skills that these individuals have. When things get kind of crazy, they're able to handle pressure well, they're open to feedback. They are really good listeners, and they make better decisions, partly because they're able to keep their emotions intact. So they're able to think more logically and think through the situation at hand. So EQ, emotional intelligence, sort of boils down to 4 quadrants: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. And these 4 quadrants all work together to build emotional intelligence. But when you look at the top 2, self-awareness and self-management, these are what make up your personal competence. And this is all about how well you are managing yourself, how well you know yourself, knowing what your strengths are, your weaknesses, and knowing how you're going to react to certain things. It's all about knowing yourself. The second one is social competence, and that addresses the bottom 2. And this really is sort of focusing in on, being able to pick up on cues from other individuals, having that empathy, and not only picking up on those cues and working with those individuals, but then taking it a step further and building relationships with those individuals as well. So let's get started. And I wanted to level set before we jump into each of these 4 quadrants. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start with a quadrant. I'm going to show you a couple of questions. Think about those questions. And then I'm going to give you 2 strategies on how to improve that particular quadrant. Now, if you're in our full day course, you get a whole lot more, but because we are confined by some time constraints, we're only going to give you 2 per bucket. One thing to keep in mind, though, as part of the bonus content, I am going to send you a list of not 1, not 2, but 50 strategies to improve your emotional intelligence. All right, so let's talk about self-awareness. So take a look at these questions. How well do you know yourself? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Does your self-perception align with how others see you? So this is one thing that's really important. You might think that you are just, all that and a bag of chips, but everybody that you're working with may not. So you've got to make sure that how you see yourself is how others see you as well. The last question, when and where are you confident about your skills and ability? Again, this is all about knowing who you are. I know that when it comes to technology, I am not there. I am, one step above, pressing buttons like a 5-year-old. Actually, probably 5-year-old. I shouldn't say that. That's probably a disservice. 5-year-olds are probably better than me at technology. But having that awareness, do you know who you are? And sometimes it's hard to take that look at yourself. And that's why it's important that, you're talking with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and getting feedback from them. So here's one thing. Notice the ripple effect of emotions. Are you one of these individuals that, when you're in a good mood, everybody's in a good mood? When you are struggling with a situation, do you make everybody else struggle with it? So understand that the emotions that you display actually impact everybody around you. So to demonstrate this, I wanted to show you a quick video clip from the movie The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds. If you have not seen this movie, you gotta at least watch it. It's on like TBS every weekend. But let's see what type of ripple effect she has.
I know. Later.
Conference call in 30 minutes.
Yes, about that.
Wow. Nicely done.
If I want your praise, I will ask for it.
I love this clip, especially this guy standing against the wall going, if I blend in with the wall, she won't see me. But if you notice the ripple effect, what happened when she came through? I mean, for them to type in, it's here, I'm like, whoa. So what do you think everybody does when she comes in the office in the mornings? Oh, yeah. Everybody goes and hides. Oh, yeah. They're doing panics, cringes. They scram. Oh, my gosh, I haven't heard that word in forever. You must be part of the Scooby-Doo gang. Look busy, stressed. Absolutely. So what we see from this clip is that, again, how your emotions actually impact other individuals that you're around. All right, so here's another strategy. Know who and what pushes your buttons. what we find is that, you know, we all have people that pushes our buttons. They know exactly what to say or what to do to sort of unhinge us. And if you know that you're going into a meeting or you're going to be working with or you're going to be, you know, around this person, do some calming, you know, brain exercises to say, okay, hey, you got this. You know, you can manage this person, maybe ignore them, whatever it takes. But knowing that and having that self-awareness ahead of time can make a big difference. All right, so our two strategies for self-awareness: notice the ripple effects, and number two, notice who and what pushes your buttons. So let's talk a little bit about self-management now. Here are some of the questions. How well do you manage your emotions and actions? What can you do to manage yourself when you're under stress? How do your values shape your words and actions? And how do you support your continued growth and development? This one really speaks volumes about how well you interact with others. If you're able to manage your own emotions, when things go sideways, how do you react? Do you flip out, throw things? Do you, do like this gentleman and crawl up on your desk and do a little bit of meditation? For me, it is all about doing some deep breathing. If you have not ever done box breathing, try that. You can just Google box breathing. Navy SEALs use it, and it is a phenomenal way of controlling yourself and calming yourself down. Again, it's called box breathing. So self-management, being able to manage your own emotions when things get nuts. All right, so I want to show you, again, another quick video clip. This one is actually from the movie Erin Brockovich, and she is this, she's a paralegal that works for this lawyer. They're working on this huge case, and it's time for her to get paid for the work that she's done. And let's see how she reacts to the amount that she's. Okay, so how did she handle that? And I should have probably told you that there were a few bad words. I apologize. Did she manage her emotions at all? No, absolutely not. And what we find here is that instead of, taking a break, waiting to hear what he said, instead she just kind of flipped out, lost her mind. It was insane. So what we find is that, it's important to manage yourself. All right, here's tip number 2. Remember to breathe. How many people have ever found yourself kind of struggling for breath? What we're finding is that, okay, gosh, I just feel like I'm stressed, and then all of a sudden you go, and you realize that maybe you weren't breathing. And it's what's interesting is that, when you are trying to manage your emotions, breathing can be very powerful. I mentioned box breathing before. This is a great technique to help you. All right, so here's another tip. Smile and laugh more. How many people here are finding ways to smile and laugh in the midst of COVID? We're going through a lot of crazy stuff. And what we're finding is that we're having to really make an effort to smile more, to laugh, to find things that are funny. So I want to open up the chat box here. What are some things that help you smile and laugh? Share those. All right. call your best friend that always makes you laugh. Movies, going through and talking with your family, your friends. I've got several coworkers that are just hysterical. So sometimes I'll call them and go, hey, what are you working on? And they'll come up with something crazy or funny. So finding things that help you smile and laugh. I love it. Somebody put their toddler. Absolutely. If you can't, spend time with your toddler and not smile, laugh, then there's something wrong with you. All right. So I love it. So in the chat box, so we've done that. All right, so let's talk about the third quadrant, social awareness. And here are our questions. Do you know how to accurately read others' emotions, both individually and in group settings? Can you anticipate the feelings, needs, and concerns of others? And do you have strategies and tactics for dealing with emotional situations? So what we find is that, with social awareness, is it that you are able to pick up on what other people are thinking? Can you see that they are maybe physically distraught or they have questions? All of us have sat in a meeting before where we have seen someone physically recoil when someone says something. And so being able to pick up on those cues is huge. And then being able to follow up on them is the second part of this. It's all about having empathy for individuals. What's interesting is that now in the midst of COVID, we really are beginning to take that extra step around, social awareness. And I think we're more in tune with other people. We're asking them how they're doing. And instead of just, waiting for them to say, oh, I'm fine or I'm good. Sometimes I've had people go, how are you really doing? So having that social awareness helps you build relationships, which we'll talk about in just a minute. All right. So I want to show you a quick clip. I feel like we're bouncing back and forth here, but I want to show you this clip from The Blind Side. Again, this is a great movie, and this gives you an idea of people. All right. So I love this clip, too, because it says a lot about Leanne Tuohy and what she did. What's interesting is that, she really picked up, like, what is he wearing? And she was like, okay, this guy does not need to be walking around in a short sleeve shirt and shorts. I mean, she really was in tune. What I find interesting is when the husband rolls down the window and goes, hey, Big Mike, where are you going? And Big Mike responds, I'm going to the gym. He's like, all right, go on. So not to say that men are not as emotionally in tune as women, but in this case, how in tune was he? I mean, I was like, wow, okay, he just kind of let that one go. But not to say that you have to, get out of your car and pull over, and that was kind of extreme. But even just giving someone a simple smile and acknowledging them can make a big difference. Again, it's all about building that social awareness. All right, so let's look at our strategies here. Number one, watch body language. This is huge. And I saw that somebody else, put in the chat box, tone of voice too. What a person is doing with their body language tells us a lot about how they're feeling or what they're thinking. So thinking in terms of, just kind of picking up on those cues as you're communicating or working with other individuals. Now, this gets a little bit tricky with, now that a lot of us are working at home, maybe even for an extended period of time, it's harder to do this unless someone's got their camera put on, you know, during like a Zoom meeting or WebEx meeting. But again, pick up on those other cues. Are there other things that they're doing that you can pick up on? Number 2, and this is so hard, is to live in the moment. Whoever you're with, give them the best of you. Be present, be there, live in the moment. I will say that this is probably one of the hardest things for me personally, because I'm always like, okay, what's next? Let's go. Let's do this. You know, I'm always about checking things off the list. And those people that know me well know that I do have a hard time with this. But what I'm finding is that the older I get, the better I'm getting at this. Taking time to slow down, to be there, to really listen. And sometimes, again, that's really hard. But to ask questions and to be there with that person, sometimes building that social awareness is really just being there with that person. And this strategy kind of spills over into building those relationships, because when you are socially aware of someone, you do begin to build some of those relationships with those individuals. All right. So finally, let's talk about our last quadrant, relationship management. Let me flip over here. Here are our questions. It's all about, you know, utilizing your awareness of others to maximize their potential in your relationship. Can you inspire others with your passion and your vision? And what I love about this quadrant is that it is about human compassion and making those connections with other individuals. Relationships and building them sometimes take time. You've got some individuals that are guarded, and you know, it's harder to tune in with those people. But finding some of those common ground with those individuals can help you build these relationships. I thought this was funny. I just was working with one of our registration managers, and I made a reference to the Titanic. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite movie. I've seen it like 100 times. And I was like, what? So again, just little things like that, you know, building those relationships, you know, and making sure that you're helping these individuals be the best version of themselves. All right. I love one of these comments that just came in from Hillary. You have to meet people where they are, acknowledge what they feel, and only then can you lead them through their own emotions to a shared end goal. Wow. Hillary, you are like totally tuned in. I love that. I love that. Ann Oliver said, yeah, it shows you care and you're giving them respect when you do this. Absolutely. So let's look at our first movie clip for relationship management. All right, so this is another movie that's on TBS all the time. It's The Devil Wears Prada. And to cue it up, this is Andy. She's going in to meet with Miranda, who is the editor of this haughty-taughty fashion magazine. And let's see how it goes. Let's see if this lady has any ability to build relationships. All right, so I love this clip, and I saw that there were several other people in the chat box like, oh, I love this clip too. When she waves, when Miranda waves her off, how many of you ever have wanted to wave somebody off? I mean, all of us probably have at some point. But what we see here, out of the two people, which one do you think is it better able to build relationships? Andy or Miranda? Yeah, Andy. Yeah, Andy. Oh, yeah. Even when she gets waved off, you know, she was a little bit taken back. She was a little bit stunned. But what she, you know, she kind of bounces back. And it's interesting because when you're building relationships with people, sometimes you're going to get brushed off before you're able to completely build those relationships up. All right. So one of the things that you can do, strategy number one for building relationships, is lead by example. If you want to be open-minded, if you want to build a positive culture, if you want to build a great relationship with your teammates, your family, your friends, you know, your colleagues, anybody, lead by example. People will watch you. People are always watching everything that we do. And so by taking time to lead by example, others will follow. Believe it or not, they'll see what you do, and then they will do it as well. So leading by example can be powerful. Help others to develop and grow. Give of yourself to help make this happen. If you're in a position within your organization where you can help others to become better versions, maybe it's to, you know, send them to a conference to network or meet other individuals to see how they're doing, you know, jobs that are similar to theirs. You know, sign them up for some training or ask them what type of training they would like. Give them new positions or new jobs to help them spread themselves or challenge themselves. So whatever you can do to help others develop and grow, again, helps build your relationship with them. They will trust you. You've got to take that time to help them become the best version of themselves. All right, so we have gone through these four quadrants: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So I wanted to open this up. Out of these four, which one do you think is the most important? Awareness, self-management, social awareness, or relationship management? Which one is the most important? All right, self-awareness, okay, seems to be sort of leading the way there. Self-awareness depends on the situation. I like it. Social awareness, okay, relationship management. You have to be aware of yourself and others before you can be aware of others. Self-awareness, okay. Social awareness, self-management. Okay, relationship. Okay, so we're all over the board. I love it. All four at once. Love it. All right, there should be a balance of the all four. Love it. I think the first three help with your relationship management skills. They're interconnected. I believe if you're aware of yourself, you'll learn to manage yourself, which will lead to the others. Absolutely. You guys, you actually have to have all four of these. They are interconnected. One is not more important than the other. I know tons of people that are self-aware. They know exactly what they are doing. They might see somebody in the middle of the street, just got run over by a Mack truck, and they would go on the opposite direction just so that they did not have to deal with the situation. So you absolutely have to have all four. But with anything, again, that self-awareness, and a lot of you mentioned this in the chat box, so it's kind of a bonus plus, but you do have to build that self-awareness. if you know yourself, you are able to, it kind of spills over into the other three. If you don't know yourself, if you don't know what's going to set you off, if you don't know what's going to, if you don't know who you are and have that confidence, then it can impact the other. But emotional intelligence is all about balancing. I'm going to go back to that. Think about the picture of the person balancing the heart and the head. You have to find that balance of the heart and the head. All right. I love it. Mark said they're building blocks. The more self-aware, the better the self-management, etc. You guys are on fire today. I love it. Love it. All right. So, wanted to let you know, if you loved today, which I hope you did, we actually have a little bit longer version of this course called Emotional Intelligence, the Critical Skill for Leadership. And it's actually going to be taught by our fabulous Heidi Hansen, who is online with us today. Woot woot. And the course number is PDS 304, Section 10. It's actually coming up pretty quickly. June 2nd and 4th, it's an evening class from 6 to 9:30. Now, I hate to sound like one of these infomercials, but if you register today, actually, if you do register by Tuesday, May 19th, you actually will get the early bird discount of $237. So, you know, I would love for you guys to join us for this longer version of this course. There's tons of great information in there. It is just a great course. And then if you were with me last week as well, there's still time to register for Nicole, who also is online, our Change Management and Organizational Development course that's coming up June 9th and 11th. And again, if you register by May 26th, there's also an early bird 5% discount for that. So I'm so excited. I mean, you know, we've got two great courses that are coming up. All right, so if you have not already, we have a few more webinars coming up, Coaching for Success, and I've got some more great movie clips. Y'all know how much I love movie clips. For Coaching for Success, we've got Priority Planning, Working Effectively in Virtual and Remote Teams, The Power of Personality. This is going to be awesome. And Coaching for Building a Positive Work Environment. So we've got a lot of other great courses coming up. So if you haven't registered for them, they are still open. So here's, you know, my contact info. I would encourage you to go out to connect with me on LinkedIn or our Continuing Ed department on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I want to remind everybody too that this afternoon you're going to get an email, and there is going to be additional resources on there. Don't forget to complete the evaluation, but there's also a link on there for a newsletter. Consider signing up for that. That way you can find out what's going on with this at all times. So at this point, I want to kind of open it up to questions. We still have plenty of time. So what questions do you have? Use the chat box, throw those in there, and let me know what questions you've got. I would love to hear more. We can keep the discussion going for a little bit more. No questions? All right, here we go. Awesome. How can we help others become self-aware? Oh, Maria, that is a great question. How can we get others? This is kind of the same question that we got in one of the other webinars about, how can you help other people become more resilient? You've all heard the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. One of the things that you could do, there's a couple of different things. One, you could show them this webinar recording if you wanted to. Number two, if they do something that's just completely off the wall, start a private dialogue with them. Talk with them and say, okay, help me understand why you did blah, 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 blah. Or help me understand why you said blah, 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 blah. And if you can, start, talking with them, did you notice that what you said about this had an impact on person X? And trying to get them to tune in to what they said or why it was inappropriate or why it was, might have been a little bit too harsh or, whatever it might be. One of the things, and again, people that know me know that this is pretty much true, but I actually had a manager tell me in one of my first jobs, Amy, you realize that you can be a little bit too much for people. And I was like, what? No, I think I'm just the right amount for people. And that was pretty blunt. And at first it really took me back. But I thought about what that person said, and actually I've used that a lot in my professional life. I try to. I'm still a lot for a lot of people, trust me. But, if you can if they do something or say something, casually bring it to their attention. All right, let's see what other questions we've got. Okay. Any tips on reading folks' emotion in the virtual space, especially, so this is hard too. Again, especially in the virtual space, unless they've got their camera on, it is going to be really hard to see what they're doing. Maybe it's one of those things that even after the meeting, you could, just call them up and go, hey, noticed you were kind of shifting in your seat, or noticed that your eyes were dropped. Of course, that could mean that they're looking at another screen or looking at their phone or anything else. It's out of line of sight. But the other thing is, if you don't have a video, listen to their tone of voice. And, is it sort of monotone? Is it deadpan? The other thing is, having some of those conversations with individuals sort of offline, that can help as well. All right. What if someone told me not to worry about trying to make sure people like me, that it's not important? I feel like having connections at work make working together much more productive. And you're very right. I mean, there are times when we kind of do have to say, okay, I'm not going to worry about what they say, especially if that person is negative all the time. It doesn't matter if you bring your A game every day. They're going to find something wrong with you. In that case, those people, I say, bye-bye. But you're right. It's about making those connections. It's about finding ways to work with other individuals. We're having to be more collaborative than ever. So I'm not saying that, if someone's, there's always going to be a difference of opinion. It just depends on how much weight you give that person and what they're saying to you. So, is it someone that you respect? If the CEO of your company is giving you some feedback, if it's valid feedback, then yeah, be open to it. But again, sometimes you just have to say, okay, I can't worry about them. I have to focus on me and working on yourself to become better at what you do. All right. At what point do you walk away for self-care versus trying to help others, especially without coming off as better than? Maria, that's a hard one. All of us have a certain amount of energy to give to other individuals. At the end of the day, we do have to take care of ourselves, because we're the only, and I always tell myself this, I'm the only Amy I've got, you know. But if there are things that you can do, you know, maybe they're casual things, or, hey, I saw this article on such and such, check it out. And maybe it's not that you just send it to that one person. Send it to your team of people, if you've got a team, or your colleagues, or, hey, I thought this was interesting, or maybe it's a short video clip, or whatever it is. But you do have to look out for yourself. You do have to find that nice even. And sometimes that's hard. With stress, find things to do that help alleviate that stress, so that if you are trying to find that balance, you know, go out and, you know, smile and laugh. Give me a call. I'll make you laugh. I'll tell you something stupid that I've done during the day. So trying to find that balance is sometimes challenging. All right. Love it. Rebecca says that we're reading Emotional Intelligence 2.0 for our leadership training at work. It's not too bad of a read. It really is a good book. The Travis Bradbury Emotional Intelligence 2.0, also, in case any of you were interested, does include an assessment with it. It's an online assessment for the course that Heidi's going to be teaching coming up in June. That course also has an assessment, and she's actually going to take you even for a deeper dive. And that way, you know, if you're looking at the assessment, you can kind of go, oh, okay, I need to work on a social awareness versus this other. All right. All right, how can self-awareness help us overcome emotional wounding in ourselves and others? Wow, Keith, you're getting me kind of heavy there. I love it. So one of the things and normally when I teach this, one of the tips I have is improve your self-talk. I love that. Improve your self-talk. Everybody write that down. And there's a phrase, there's 6 words, 3 sentences and 6 words. I can, I will, and the other one just went right out of my head. But what's interesting is that what you say to yourself, believe it or not, you're listening. So if you are beating yourself up over something that maybe went sideways or didn't go exactly the way you had planned, guess what? The end of the world is not going to happen. Be kind to yourself. And so, you know, take time to give yourself those pep talks. You got this. You're awesome. You're ready, whatever it might be. But you improve that self-talk. That can go a long way. All right. All right. Any other questions? Nicole, am I good on questions? Okay. All right. Well,
there's a few questions in there if you want me to bring them.
Oh, I see them. Okay, cool. How do we balance smile and laughing more without being perceived as not taking things seriously? Okay, I love this question. My mom had a nervous laugh, and she would laugh at the most inopportune times. And of course, we would turn around and go, "What you doing?" You know. And that's kind of interesting because if you're sitting in a meeting and someone says something that really it's a serious thing, and you're not trying to be funny, but it comes across that way. Sometimes, you know, just holding that smile in, and then when you get out of the meeting or away from that person, then let it out. I love this because I have been accused of smirking before, and part of it is, you know, if you're looking at someone had said something, and I smiled because I was just thinking about 2 or 3 things that related to that. And, you know, of course, I got called out on it. Why are you smirking? Is that funny? You think this is funny? And I was like, no, I don't think it's funny at all. And my little brain, and you know, I tried to play it off as, you know, the little squirrels in my brain were telling me that this related to it, and so I was already making the connections. And so, you know, sometimes you can do little things like that as well. All right, let's see. I worked in a negative group for 5 years. I felt like I brought their snarkiness with me in my present job. How do I shed that? Oh, that's a great, I love the word snarky. I mean, it's just fun to say. But thinking, again, this kind of goes up. First of all, you're in tune with your self-awareness. The fact that you're aware that you are bringing that with you. But this kind of falls under the self-management bucket or quadrant. When someone says something and you have that impulse to say something snarky back, take a breath and think about how else could you rephrase what you were going to say. What else could you say differently so that it doesn't come across as snarky. And, you know, again, I applaud you. At least you're aware of that. But just taking that moment to manage those emotions and thinking before you speak. All right. Thank you. The 6 phrases: I can, I will, I must. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. I wasn't that kind of person before I worked with, and I'm self-aware enough to know that they were rubbing off on me. Love it. Love it. Okay. Are there any tips for being emotionally intelligent in unstable working environments? How do you remain emotionally intelligent when dealing with an unpredictable manager? Oh boy. Okay, so we need another 45 minutes just to answer those. And what I might work on is sending some additional information out on that. But if you're emotionally intelligent in an unstable working environment, a lot of it is just, you know, again, self-care, knowing who you are, finding ways to keep yourself centered, and letting yourself know, okay, this unpredictable manager, I have no control over him or her. I can only control myself. So, and the other thing is, you know, if it's such a bad situation, you know, you deserve better. Go find another job somewhere else. There's always alternatives. All right, and Sarah, I'll follow up with you with some extra information. All right, we are at the top of 2 o'clock. I didn't want to take more time than you guys are willing to prioritize for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Again, we're going to send out lots of info, and make sure you fill out the email, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.